Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. It is Wednesday, the 21st of March. It's 8:50. So I'm either 10 minutes early for my 9 o'clock video, or I'm 50 minutes late for my 8 o'clock video. And depending on your position, you might take it one way or the other. And if you think I'm late, I'm sorry. If you think I'm early, my pleasure. And the name of tonight's video is Live and Direct. And I almost call it live for live's sake, because I'm trying to understand, and the conversation I want to have is the conundrum of we the people of Trinidad and Tobago, because we seem to be a very confused race of people, a melting pot of confused people. Because no matter what position you take on a situation, there'll be people who will be willing to argue the other side of that position vehemently, vociferously, and with vigor. Those are 3 V words. And we don't use V much, and that just shows you. Before we get into it, somebody wanted to make a point, so they sent me a story about the police officers who were called to a domestic disturbance. And the officer called the station to speak to the sergeant. And he said, "Sarge, we have a situation here, you know. It's an old woman, but she shoot her husband. Because the sergeant said, because he walked on the wet floor she just mopped." The sergeant said, "Well, have you arrested her yet?" He said, "No, Sarge, the floor's still wet."
Yeah! Revelation!
Jebili told me that is a funny joke. Share the live now. We will come back live and direct.
He promised the fire next time. He promised the fire next time. He promised the fire next time. Next time. And who ain't dead, the bad wounded? Who ain't dead, bad wounded? Who ain't dead, the bad wounded? Who ain't dead, bad wounded? Talk, you're mocking pretender. And your kill rings and I come to test you. Far too long, you're fooling the children, filling the head with brainwash education. Doomsday reach, wipe and the repeat, cause the children coming to take back the beat. The power of the word in the conscious styling. Even you for a brand new morning. I say the power of the word in the rap so styling. Rocking the roots of the vampire system. Talk it up, you puppet pretender. Talk it up, you bloody deceiver. Talk it up, you serpent master. Talk it up, you friggin' oppressor. And illusion shatter. Right down to the heart of the matter. Desire go bust and reality scatter. He promised the fire next time. He promised the fire next time. He promised the fire next time. Next time. And who ain't dead, the badly wounded? Who ain't dead, badly wounded? Who ain't dead, the badly wounded? Who ain't dead, badly wounded?
Before we go any further, I know that some of you have grown accustomed to this show. Now, tonight we had a communications meeting. Many of you may know that every Thursday night we have a show called Frontline that is hosted by the PRO, Janice Lemon Creaky, and Deputy PRO, Anthony Defoe. Produced by the chairman of the party, Felicia Holder. And I would do a live after Frontline on a Thursday night. But Frontline has come into its own, getting upwards of 5,000 and 6,000 views. So, on a Thursday, I won't be doing a show. And Tuesday, a new show is being launched next week Tuesday. And starting next week Tuesday, that show, I will be promoting that show, and I won't be doing a show on Tuesday. So we'll be doing Monday, Wednesday, and then the Friday Night Live. Unless something else comes up. So I just want you to know that, so that you don't find yourself on a Tuesday or a Thursday asking what going on. Now, there's a guy who you all see regularly on the threads named Dave Lux. Dave Lux is my evil alter ego, because some of the things Dave says are things that all of us want to say, but only Dave says it. And for some reason, especially the elder ladies in our midst appreciate Dave for his brash honesty. And we refer to him as the girl them sugar, because all of the Golden Girls love Dave. And if we have in a video and Dave not here, there's ask what's going on with Dave. So I don't know if Dave is here tonight. I saw him post just now, but don't message me to ask where Dave. When he here, he will show up. Sometimes he's be here macking and not talking, but he'll be back on the rerun anyway. Anthony Marad said he will do Tuesday and Thursday. Handle your stories, brother. Jump in and get on bad. Yeah, so I really nearly didn't do a video tonight. I nearly called it live for life's sake. I just come out of a pep meeting. And this thing getting ridiculous now. This PEP thing. Dave Lux is here. Ladies, look your boy. This PEP thing getting ridiculous now. Ridiculous. We doing it like 7 days a week now. Swear. But it's getting hard, it's getting tedious, but there's something. And I called a very good friend of mine today. And I asked her if she thought my motives for doing this were pure. Because I wanted to know if it comes across pure, because I really don't want anything from it. And I wanted to know because, you know, human nature being what human nature is, that you find out after a while that you're driven to do something for a reason. And I would like to be introspective enough to understand why I do this, because this is so tedious. The conundrum of we. In a video, I refer to a sufferer as a sufferer. He showed the world he's a sufferer. He's a squatter. He living in a house, they throwing him out in a week, he say. He's pressure. He can't get work. He can't, nothing. All of that drama. But I didn't. All I did was I referred to him in passing in all of the conversations, sufferer. And he and his UNC followers blow that up out of hand and went on Kim Cole's show. I hear they was throwing KFC over the wall, kind of stupidness, stunting bullshit. I mean, that's the best the UNC have to offer this country. But forget that. Forget it. Because last night we changed gears. Today, a gentleman, I want to refer to him as a gentleman, got in an, this is how the police say it in the quarter, got into an altercation with a woman and stabbed her up to get her gold chain, and she died. He's in custody, and I said of that situation, a suffering nation, because up to that point I didn't know that he knew her, and apparently this is a domestic violence thing. He just come out of jail and kind of back. But I wrote of this, a suffering nation, stabbed repeatedly for her gold chain. She died on the way to hospital. Perpetrator chased, beaten, and turned over to police. 2 lives lost to poverty and violence in this corrupt and mismanaged society. Nobody want to get the boy poverty. He's just a hater. And I don't understand why we don't have compassion for each other. We use everything as a reason. And if you were to go missing tomorrow, or to get killed, or to whatever, you ever thought what people would say about you? Because Trinis, for some reason, they're loving when it comes to that. Although I find that there's a kind of a double standard the darker your skin gets. Held over from slavery days, I am sure, colonialism, where the lighter, the whiter, the all righter. And that's the country we live in. But you would think that in 2018, we would know better, do better. And wanting to help the conversation, I did some research. Because if we're going to be having ongoing conversations about what's going on in the nation, hoping to get to a resolution, we should understand how to argue. These are 10 common fallacies everyone should know. Ad hominem. When someone attacks the person instead of the argument. Example, Jenny's just a stupid blonde on unemployment. Why would you ever consider her strategy for getting a job? As an attack against the person. Appeal to authority. When a statement is considered true because it's made by someone who's considered an authority on the topic. Example, my doctor says taking St. John's wort every day will make me less depressed. He should know. He's a doctor. Appeal to ignorance. When a claim is considered true because it hasn't been disproven, or vice versa. Example, since you cannot prove that aliens do not exist, then they must exist. Now, I want to tell you, this is the first time I'm reading it in depth, and a lot of these things, because I kind of believe in aliens. Bandwagon fallacy. When a concept is considered true because lots of people believe it's true. Example, 9 out of 10 doctors agree that medicine X is the best. So then medicine X must be the best. Begging the question. When the statement is assumed true based on the statement itself. Example, the Bible is the word of God because it says so in the Bible. Loaded question. When a question contains the presumption of guilt. Example, so when exactly did you stop hitting your wife? Assumes the person was hitting his wife. Non sequitur. When a statement's conclusion does not follow from its premise. Example, if you don't buy this type of food, then you are neglecting your children's health. It's like, if you don't support us, you're supporting the terrorists. Red herring. When someone diverts the attention away from the topic to a new topic to throw you off and win the argument, we call that trolling. Example, so you think abortion results in lower crime rates? Well, we've all seen what happened in Nevada with that abortion doctor who killed his patients with dirty equipment. You want that? You want to see patients killed in dirty clinics? Then go ahead and support abortion. Slippery slope. When it's assumed that a small step leads to a larger chain reaction of events resulting in a greater impact. Example, if we legalize abortion, then the next thing you know, we'll be killing newborn babies. And then finally, the straw man. When someone ignores the argument and replaces it with a distorted or exaggerated version of that argument. Example, person A. Evolution states that humans developed over a long time from the same common ancestor as the gorilla. Person B. Everyone listen to person A. He's saying that we descended from baboons. That's 10 common fallacies that affect how people have conversations on social media. Name calling, ad hominem, responding to the tone, contradiction, counter-argument, refutation, refuting the central point. That's base to top how you're supposed to argue. Name calling, you all don't know what that is like. Ad hominem, all of that. Responding to tone, criticizes the tone of the writing without addressing the substance of the argument. Contradiction, states the opposing case with little or no supporting evidence. Counter-argument, contradicts and then backs it up with reasoning and or supporting evidence. Refutation, finds the mistake and explains why it's mistaken using quotes. Refuting the central point, explicitly refutes the central point. That's how you're supposed to argue. Deal with the issue at hand. But we don't do that. We fight. We go from one person says to the other person disagrees, and then we get to there. So I have a quandary where everybody's asking me to be a kinder, gentler Philip, but then I see Akash Samaru and Hema Ramkissoon and them behaving like me. I am seeing other people, other politicians, trying to talk like me now. So I'm wondering, is it that they don't want me to be me, or they're afraid of me when I'm me. I don't know. Because I think of all the other political parties that have existed in this country in the past how many ever years, and none of them have accomplished in 1 year and 2 months what the Progressive Empowerment Party has done. Now you live in a country where 500,000 people don't vote. Don't vote at all. Half the population that are allowed to vote, don't vote at all. And then you have the other half who vote, divide that basically into two, between the PNM and the UNC, and you realize you're talking about a quarter of the population elects the government. That's a minority. That's a minority. We've always had minority governments. Even when they get 571,000 votes or 600,000 votes, the amount of people who did not vote could still take them out of office. So the PEP, to be relevant, needs to leave the PNM supporters and the UNC supporters alone. I am not saying that we exclude, because we are one people under one flag. But the people who are diehard UNC, no matter how small, to try and fight them is ridiculous. They believe what they believe. The small group that support the PNM no matter what, like that police officer in La Hoqueta Talpara, I'll never forget that guy as long as I live. I'll ignore him. But all the other people who've never had representation, that's who we are. That's who we have to turn to. It's because of them there is a Progressive Empowerment Party more than anything else. Because like everybody else who never wanted the PNM or the UNC, or don't want the PNM or the UNC, we need to have a real alternative. And the Progressive Empowerment Party is that. So to have the UNC or the PNM attack us about who they think is their follower, is, yeah? So, I was just told I'm rambling. And I know, because I'm actually waiting on something to give you some information. Tonight, I don't know how to come at this. I don't know how to break this down, because we have a problem as a people. And if we don't get beyond it, we can't fix it. I know all of our policies will fix this country. This is the meeting we had this afternoon. The first half of the meeting was this. How do you convince the people who are only stuck in a mindset that I only support in this party, no matter what they do, no matter what they ever do, I don't care. Or I will never support that party because for whatever reason. Or every other party has done us wrong. And all of that. I've said repeatedly, if we're in government, the country fixed. Getting from here to government, I don't know. There are things that urgently needs to be done about this country. You have to fix the courts. You have to fix the police service. You have to fix healthcare. You have to fix education. You have to fix the economy. When they say fix the economy, you have to decentralize the economy away from oil and gas dependence. But you also have to fix the economy where everybody has a chance at a proper life. We don't have that now. We have a vast majority of our people living on, trying to make do on a minimum wage that cannot sustain a life. Most of the people watching here, if you had to raise a family on $2,250 a month, how would you? And it doesn't have to matter to you, because you don't have to raise your family on $2,250. You have your money, the business fixed. You might be better off than that. But there are a lot of people who don't. They're in trouble. They are surviving every single day, getting past every single day. And all it takes is one incident, to throw them off, never recover. I'll never forget this guy. He became the lead actor on Sopranos. When he was still trying to find his way, he was on an episode of Law and Order. And if you ever see that episode of Law and Order, you'll see why he became a big star. Because the role he acted in that show, he was a homeless guy. He was a homeless guy. And he had beat another homeless guy to death for an orange. Over an orange. And when they get him into the court, and they're cross-examining him, he said to the district attorney, I have no idea how I ended up here. I had a home, a business, a family. I had a life. I was a person. And then all of a sudden, things went wrong quickly, critically, to the point where I've lost everything and there's nobody. And he said to him, he said, the thing that goes wrong the most when you're homeless, you become invisible. People don't see you. And they treat you with contempt. He had no system of governance to protect him. Somebody stole his orange. And that orange was his greatest possession in the world. And he killed the man for his orange. He couldn't go to the police and report the other man for stealing his orange. The police would have thrown him out of the police station and laugh at him. There was no system for him. What happens to people like that? In Trinidad and Tobago, we have so many people doing so bad. We treat them, we deal with them, but we don't know what people have going on home. Plenty of people in this country are barely making it day to day. And they don't know what they're going to do. Every time the government increase the hurt on the public, it decimates them a little bit more. Somebody sent me his whole story about what he had to go through to get his house. And this was his life's goal. And he's barely holding it together, but he is taking care of his family. And now the government wants to come and institute a tax on his house that he doesn't know how he's going to pay. And that if he cannot pay it, he'll lose his house. And we're not having that conversation. There is nobody for the person in the bank who is done wrong by the bank to turn to if they don't have money. There's nobody. There's nobody for you to turn to if you're done wrong by the healthcare system if you don't have money. If your child is abused in school and beaten by the teacher and all that drama, there's nobody for you to turn to. The systems of governance are barely functional in this country, and they don't function at all for the lowest classes, for the desperately poor. And we, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, live each day blissfully ignorant to the fact that all of those people have been done wrong by us, by our silence, and by the governments we voted into office. And if we don't fix that, because I can't do this just for the people who love me. I can't do this just for the people who support me. There's this clown that came on a thread about our membership card that says membership has its advantages. Hear it. Membership has its advantages. And for the members, if you have a membership card, there are benefits to it. And he wants to know if that is not, if I think that that is right, that we're leaving everybody else out. I'm trying to explain, I don't know how to explain to the gentleman. Friend, this is how membership works. It's like your home and your belongings. It belongs to you, and you share it with the people who have a share in it. And if people want to benefit from being in the PEP, join the PEP. Membership has its advantages. But you can't be in the PNM or the UNC and want to benefit from the PEP's membership benefits if you're not a member. How does that work? When there was a flood some time ago, the first call we put out was to all PEP members. Let us know that you're okay. Let us know where you are and if you need help. Our first response has to be to the people who built this party. We are not in government. When we are in government, that will change. Because the PNM is supposed to be the government for the entire country tonight. They don't behave like that. The UNC was supposed to be the government for the entire country. They didn't really behave like that. In fact, Jack Warner told somebody, "All they vote for me, all they don't get." What do we do? While we're talking, there are people paid to silence us. Don't let them talk. Keep the conversation broken. Keep the conversation that separates the nation. How do we as a nation go forward and fix it? How do we get people to understand that they are acting against themselves when they support these parties who have demonstrated they have no interest in fixing the country? How? How? How do you do that? That's the critical question. No. Because we could do this every night. 15, 20 of us could talk every night. Could mobilize, evangelize, tell Trinidad what's wrong, tell Trinidad what needs to be done. But if it doesn't resonate with the crowd, if they choose to act against themselves, what do we do? That's the conundrum. We live in a country where we hope that the vast majority of us want better for ourselves and our family. But what happens to the people who think that this is okay? There was a fella on Facebook last night cussing me on the thread. His profile picture is him and drugs and money. Of course he's not going to like me. We want a law-abiding country. We want a country that works. This is a criminal paradise. And if he's a criminal, he is going to want things to continue as they are. We want to fix it. How do we get from here to there? How do we get from here to there? Yeah? That's the question that I want to ask you all tonight. To think about this. Because it's easy to sit where you are and cuss other people for trying. That's easy. Real easy. Actually doing something, that's difficult. Actually trying to fix the country, that takes effort. That takes sacrifice. That takes love of people, even people that hate you. Even people that attack you and defame you. We, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, have one opportunity now to fix this country. One. And I don't know how, again, to get the message across. My live videos can be as calm as this video tonight, or as heated as last night's video. Tonight's video will not get as many hits, views, likes, shares as last night's. Last night's video will resonate with people. And then people will say, Philip, is too angry or arrogant. I ask people in a room tonight. Anybody that says Philip is too angry is correct. Absolutely correct. The conundrum of Trinidad and Tobago, the bigger question is, why isn't everybody else angry? Why? We just spent $3.1 million for a week to Liat to take up the workload that Caribbean Airlines couldn't handle because the government destroyed the Tobago Sea Bridge. You are living in a country where the government destroyed the sea bridge, and we've not shut the country down, and we've not fired the government. Do I come on this live video and calmly tell you what the solutions are? Or do I come on this video and tell you, get incensed, get upset, get angry, that this is not how our country is run? The business community in Trinidad suffering. The lowest classes of people in Trinidad and Tobago suffering. And anybody that lives in Trinidad and Tobago right now suffering. You're not safe. You're not safe. Even if you're living in the most gated of gated communities, at some point you have to drive out. This place is falling apart. This place is falling apart. We are watching it fall apart. At some point, for some instance, you could find yourself at serious risk where your gated community can't help you. We need to make sure as a nation and a people that our people are taken care of to the point where criminality fueled by poverty is no more. But we're not having those conversations. Political parties come, political parties go. Spend millions of dollars advertising on all manner of media with no real plans that deals with the country's problems from the ground up. The Progressive Empowerment Party says that like a rising tide, we will raise all boats. We are not hearing a response from anybody. I asked this morning, where is the opposition? What is their job? Why aren't they raising the issues in the country that we're raising? Prior to the formation of the Progressive Empowerment Party, the exchange in the parliament and between political parties carried on the media was nonsense and noise. Now, we're talking, you look at the media for the day, we're talking about, is the SCA hurting children? Can we clean up the police service? What about the decriminalization of marijuana to grow for export for medicinal use? Jamaica today started selling legally medicinal marijuana. Trinidad so far away from the rest of the civilized world on all of these issues. We have a government so incapable of enunciating a vision. It is almost as if they lied to get into office, just to get into office. They seem to have no clue. The Minister of Sport has made a mess of Trinidad's sport fraternity. Nobody in sport knows who to turn to. The Minister of Tourism has made a fool of anything and anybody that has anything to do with tourism. Healthcare is a mess. Education is a mess. National security is a mess. We grow nothing. We have no functional government anywhere. Nothing works. And we carry on as if somehow this will magically take care of itself. This live video tonight, in calm and measured tones, is to tell you there are versions of the same conversation if you want to hear it. But if you don't get involved, nothing changes. The truth is available to you and the solution is in your hands. What happens next is up to you. Do we, as a political party, stunt more? Do we make more noise? Do we try harder to attract your attention? Why isn't the onus and the responsibility on every citizen to fix this country? Why aren't all the people of Trinidad and Tobago having this conversation about how to fix Trinidad and Tobago. Forget us. If you don't like us, I just had to block a woman who came on the thread just to post, I don't like this man. What is the point of that? I'm not looking for a wife. And if you don't like me, switch off. It takes less muscle movements to switch off my live video than to type that. So I could only assume that the purpose of your typing that is to try to get other people to agree with your opinion, when all this man is doing is trying to say, hey, let's fix this country to your benefit too. What do I do? How do I respond to that post? I don't like this man. Ignore it. But what if it causes other conversation to flow from it? How do we deal with that? And it takes away from the actual conversation that we are supposed to be having about how to fix the country. Ali says forget them. Of course. But at the end of the day, the purpose of the trolls is to come into the thread and distract everybody else. And they do. So we don't ever get to have a conversation about what's going on in Tobago. Everybody in Trinidad blissfully unaware of what the people in Tobago are going through tonight. And the people in Tobago are in a serious, serious difficulty right now. There are children who are going to wake up tomorrow to dress to go to school in an education system that is literally wasting their time. They are getting nothing from it. They are being dumbed down and made violent. It's called the classroom to prison pipeline. We're getting good at it in Trinidad and Tobago. Just now they're going to privatize the jails, so that the more people they could put in jail, the more money private people make it. That's where they want to go in this mad ass country. And the people who could have a better life working against any opportunity of saving them. What do we do? Do we just say, forget it? I look back at the ONR, the NAR, the COP, and I look back at them because they made good efforts and had good policies and made a good stride to try and fix the country and failed. They couldn't get past the conundrum of people tripping over themselves to keep you from saving them. Now, I don't know if I have the ability to get past that. I don't know. I can't cuss every night. I can't come on this live video every night and make old noise. At some point, we have to be able to measure, because if you applaud paid attackers who are attacking people who are trying to help you, you can't be helped. And I can't help you. And the moment I accept that I can't help, I will let it go. Because while I want a better Trinidad and Tobago, it is not my decision alone to make. And regardless of how much fun the bandit parties and the criminals behind them have at our expense if we drop the ball, it matters less when I see the headlines. Like today, that woman didn't have to die. That woman didn't have to die. That man didn't have to kill her. He was supposed to come out of prison better than he went in. He was supposed to come out of prison counseled and with skill sets. If he was illiterate, he was made literate. If he had no school leaving, he was taken to primary school education. If he had that, he was taken to secondary education. And he was taught how to assimilate into society and how to manage his anger. But our jail system doesn't do that. And she had nobody to turn to. She had nobody to protect her. So the game ran until the game was up. Now she is dead and he in jail. This is a country where there are little black boys tonight trying to shoot other little black boys to defend land and turf that neither could ever own. And when that starts, we have to send police behind them to get them and put them into a penal system that cannot reform them in a country where the gun and drug importers are waiting on them as employees as soon as they come back out to put them back into a criminal underworld system that is decimating Trinidad and Tobago. And the people benefiting from that, sitting in the front pew of the church and clinking glasses at the highest levels of society. And we, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, do not have the sense between us to say, you know what? If healthcare don't work, and education don't work, and national security don't work, if we can't grow food, if we have no way of managing simple things like an electricity commission, a water and sewage authority, a licensing office, if we don't know how to take the plastic bottles out to the river and stop the flooding, if we don't know how to manage simple things like securing the nation's borders, if we have no understanding of the maintenance of roads, bridges, and sidewalks, something is wrong at an institutional level. And the institution responsible for all of that is the government. And when we could, as a people, face that, because somebody said today in the meeting that somebody said that they will choose the UNC because they know they're both wrong, but the UNC less wrong. I remember Clarence Rambarat, who is now the Minister of Agriculture, said in an article in between 2010 and 2015 that the next election will be a fight to see who less worse. Clarence chose PNM, so I guess to Clarence, the PNM is less worse than the UNC. And the rest of us living in a country where the government is taking $4 billion a year in tax from the people, that we don't know how to run the country. We won't diversify it. We won't send the high commissioners and the ambassadors searching for ways to bring foreign direct investment into Trinidad and Tobago and sell Trinidad and Tobago business to the world, so business is collapsing. Small handfuls of very moneyed people are buying up everything. It is going to come to a point where shots are going to be called from the top and you at the bottom are going to be left with no choice. We live with this concept of a green card escape. We live with this madness that if it gets too bad, we will fly out. But ask the people living outside now how hard it is to assimilate in other people's cultures when millions and tens of millions of refugees trying to come from all over the world. Trinidad and Tobago was supposed to be the most blessed nation in the world, where we are positioned on planet Earth, our climate, our soil, our weather. We are outside the hurricane belt, positioned between North, Central, and South America. We could be the wealthiest nation in the Western Hemisphere per capita if we wanted. Dubai built its fortune not on oil. Dubai built its fortune on being one of the largest shipping hubs in the world. Trinidad and Tobago has everything it needs to be the largest shipping hub in the Western Hemisphere, but for a government that understands its responsibility to the people. When you go into government and you're there to steal and to front for people who dare to steal, you have to look for the biggest bites. You have to use massive projects and fund things like Petrotrin so that you can steal massively. What happened with the port in Tobago was a government that got caught trying, because they said there were people in the UNC that set up the superfast glacier that was making money every month, and they wanted to stop that gravy train and give it to a PNM financier. But instead of, at least, if they had the common sense to match the zeal with which they wanted to continue their criminal conduct, at least bring your boat here before you fire the boat that's already doing the run. But they got caught They got caught, and this whole Bridgman's thing that blew up in their face, because Bridgman's is a front for PNM people who tried to steal money. And when the mark bust and they had to abandon ship, no pun intended, there was no solution. They had to jettison their plans and attack the Port Authority and blame the Port Authority. And a man, the chairman then, the board members, was a founding member of the PNM, and he said, no sir, we're not taking that. And the government lied to the nation and set itself up in a sole select position to make purchase decisions to buy boats that cannot float. Colm Imbert is an imbecile. I am not the one saying this. His track record is. His actions tell you that. You have an imbecile as a minister of finance and the economy. And you don't know what's going on with the economy in your country. You have 3 ministers of national security, and every day it gets worse in Trinidad and Tobago. You have a minister of health who is a bagman for the pharmaceutical industries, who was a sales rep for the pharmaceuticals company. You think he there to serve your interests in a country where $5 billion disappears every year over healthcare, while all of the hospitals we own slowly but surely collapse. There are no Panadol bandages or blood bottles in the hospitals. Surgeries and procedures routinely are cancelled because none of the things that are required to perform as a hospital are available. Yet we don't know what this $5 billion is spent on. Less than $1 billion goes to human resources, and $2 billion is caught up in something called transfers, which nobody could explain to me. The same way nobody could explain to me what happens to the estimated share of the $250 billion that our pitch lake is worth. What happens to our annual share of that? Even if you sold it or rented it out, the country should have mining rights and royalties. We should be getting a check every year. Where does that money go? Is it like the rent that is being paid to park up those 7 oil barges down the islands that are being paid to some private PNM member that doesn't find its way to the treasury? If you live in a country where of the 20,000 children coming out of school every year, more than half are certified and functionally literate, if you live in a country knowing that if that is 10,000 people you just added to our growing mass of desperately poor, living in squalor, and the only reason that happens is because our education system deliberately fails them. We have a country that has enough fertile land to have made us a net food exporter up to the 70s. Food independence is the only independence that is going to matter in this world. Very soon, the effects of global warming are going to start to reduce the ability of mega farms to produce. We are supposed to be able to be subsidizing our diet here. There are going to come places where weather patterns and will affect crop cycles to the point where the price of wheat will double. What will we do? What will we do? Then you will plant when you can't feed the nation. What will you do then? Will the people at the top jump on a Caribbean Airlines and go somewhere where they have food? What about the rest of us? You who vote them into office. What will it take for you to understand that this is not anything other than a labor of love? Every day of my life, my character is assassinated. My life is threatened. I am victimized at every level. Every day of my life for doing this. Every day of my life, people in multiples of organizations plot ways to silence me. The amount of people that are paid to shut me up is incredible. I wonder at the size of the industry that has been created since January 17, 2017, when I stepped up to do this. Because that is now an industry. Shut PHILLIP up. PHILLIP is waking people up. Shut him up. Why is it impossible for Trinidadians abroad to vote in Trinidad elections, but Americans who live in Trinidad could vote in American elections? Why? There are 7,000 people waiting for a gun license. They've gone through the system. They've done everything that the system requires that they do. They've spent the money for the physical test, the psychological test, and all the other tests. They've had their homes inspected by the police service. And the police service recommends to the commissioner of police that these people get a gun license. And it goes to the commissioner of police desk and sits. And there is nothing that they could do. A gentleman sued the commissioner of police. And on the day of the judgment, the commissioner of police refused the application. So now the gentleman he could work the system again. He could appeal. How is that possible? Who do you turn to report the commissioner of police for failing to do his job in Trinidad and Tobago? There are between 10 to 12,000 farmers idle, waiting for a piece of land to use, to grow food, so that they could be gainfully employed, so that they could hire others and take them out of the criminal underworld and provide food for the nation at affordable prices that AMCO, HADCO, MASI can import at. We could grow food here at 10 times cheaper than they could import it. They lied to you. But a mango tree, don't stop bearing mango. A guava tree, don't stop bearing guava. An avocado tree, don't stop bearing avocado. A breadfruit tree, don't stop bearing breadfruit. A soursop tree, don't stop bearing soursop. Whether you pay attention to it or not, whether you wet it or not, whether you talk to it or not, you don't have to weed up around it. You don't have to go and do nothing to it, and it just dropping fruit and vegetables for you every single season. We could be the food basket for ourselves. We could grow pawpaw, avocado, soursop, guava, mango. These are Mexico earns 1.5 billion US selling some jokey versions of the avocados we grow. Our butter avocado is the best avocado in the world. So I'm talking cocoa. They say our cocoa is the best in the world. Ignore that. Bacchanal in that. Our honey is the best in the world. Forget that. Bacchanal in that. Our pepper, the second hottest pepper in the world, is in demand for use in pepper spray. We don't have a pepper spray industry. Why? Forget that. If you have not arrived at the conclusion as yet that the government of the country, and when I say the government, I mean the PNM and the UNC, two sides of the corrupt, criminal, racist coin that has decimated this blessed paradise and made it a third world failed nation. If you have not realized as yet that Kamala Prasad Bisesa, Keith Rowley, Rudal Munilal, Colm Imbert, Vasant Bharat, Terence Dayal Singh, and all of the rest of them are criminally liable for the condition of this country by sitting in cabinets and conspiring to undermine the people of Trinidad and Tobago, not to represent them. I have told you before, the well-being of the people is the function and purpose of government. Have you ever had a government in power that you felt took your well-being as their purpose? Which government have you ever heard talk about a quality of life index? Which? Things like traffic. You know how easy it is to solve traffic in this country. How completely easy. For less than 10% of the cost that it would take to build all of these massive racket rail options, you could decentralize the state offices out of Port of Spain. But Doma and Gregory Aboud don't want that. Because if you take the offices, the 200,000 people who are forced to drive to Port of Spain every day out of Port of Spain and its land values will collapse to reality. Doma and Aboud needs that. But if you had a real government, they would know that the 200,000 people that drives into Port of Spain and out of Port of Spain every day to work in those government offices would do better if those offices were placed in the center of the island, equidistant from all corners of Trinidad. That we could make some of those offices redundant by sending them online and creating ATM machines for them to pay your bills. Because that exists the world over. You could now take your own license picture and pay with a credit card, and your license come via courier in 24 hours. This is a country that could easily be run. It could easily be right-sized. It could easily be made functional. When governments have told you it will take 15 years to clean up the police service, and we found out that the New York City Police Department Internal Affairs says it would take 6 months. When they tell you that closing the borders is impossible, and the United States says with 12 boats we could shut your border down for you tomorrow, within 6 months you would have a maritime security wall. Nothing comes in without checking. And we put scanners in place. And if Watson Duke and his workers are afraid of it, quit the job, automate the scanners, unstuff the containers on the port. If Watson Duke and his workers decide they want to play obstructionist and they want to march, you march. We'll provide sandwiches and tea every time you pause, but we'll bring workers from somewhere else. Because we will make sure that the critical machinery of the state runs, and those are issues of national security. So you can't shut it down, because in this country, it is illegal for milk farmers to strike, but we could shut the port down in this upside down, mad, bizarro land. Sitting here tonight again, live and direct, I could tell you that abolishing the SCA, making all schools 10-year schools, zoning the schools, ends the traffic and gives every child a chance at a prestige education. Because immediately, from the moment you give every child in a class a grade point average, and you test it every term with Ministry of Education examiners, not the teacher, the moment you make that the rule by which the children are educated, imagine this. All the children in that class, their collective GPA becomes the teacher's GPA. So immediately we will know which teachers working and who playing the fool. And then they will tell you, no, I'm working very hard, but these children are difficult. Show me the children who are difficult so we can bring in social development. Before we even get to there, we could switch out teachers. We could check and test and make sure that we know where the problem is, because all I have to do is monitor the performance of this teacher's class every term. Because if you so coincidentally bad lucky to be getting all the bad children in the country, I think the problem might be you. And all the classes in the school, their collective GPA becomes the principal's GPA. All of a sudden, numbers which do not lie becomes the final arbiter of your job. You get a bonus, you get fired. The two ends of the scale. Are you performing? You put a clock on the courts. Other people talking it now. I never hear anybody in this country say this before me. Before I ask about the pitch deck, nobody talk about it. Before I ask about this, put a clock on the courts. 3 years for civil matters, 5 years for criminal matters. Any judge that cannot bring a matter home in 3 years and 5 years should not be a judge. It's a simple matter of case management. If I tell you tonight, there is nothing in this country that cannot fix. The plastic bottles that minister after minister says caused the flood in Trinidad and Tobago, put a 25 cents redemption on that bottle. Apply it at the manufacture and import stage. The manufacturer will pay 25 cents deposit. The importer will pay 25 cents deposit. That 25 cents will remain with that bottle until it is picked picked up and brought in for redemption. The multitudes of people that we have who are indigent, unemployable, or homeless, we could use and encourage them to clean up our environment, because now they could make a very good living. You could make good money. Bring in 1,000 bottles for the day, make $250. You could make a good living. All of a sudden, everything could start to make sense. Clean up the environment. They say they want to shut down. All of a sudden, they're talking about shutting down the landfills. When you shut it down, what you're going to do? We haven't come to repair, reduce, reuse, nothing. Recycle. We're not talking those things yet. We're just pelting words at the population. And whatever sticks, we call that the target. We grow nothing. We make nothing. We manufacture nothing. The country is a running joke. And we, the people, and all of these catchers, we are the punchline. Because if we cannot see that the common thread in all of our misfortune is the PNM and the UNC, if for every caller heart you have a Ish and a Steve, if for every SIS you have a Calco, or you have all these names that get called at us, and we don't understand how these things take place, and nobody is saying what is being done to manage who gets contracts or not, in this country, we have a problem. We have a real problem. And the biggest problem we have in this country is the criminal element. Not the gun-toting ones at the lowest level. The shirt and tie one making the decisions upon the top. A more dangerous weapon in this country than a gun is a pen. And we need to accept, confront, and resolve this, because we're not going anywhere as a nation. We are not going anywhere until we take responsibility for Trinidad and Tobago. Our vote. Our vote. By our vote, we say we want health care that delivers, or we don't mind sitting on a hard bench for 13 hours waiting for a doctor to say, we can't address you. By our vote, we either get for our children first world education that brings them at the end of that career springboard, ready to seize a life of hope and opportunity. Or we continue the gang violence, the mismanagement, and the pornography of what we currently call an education system. By our vote, we can reduce the cost of living, put farmers to work, generate employment, and make Trinidad food self-sufficient. Or we can say, no, we don't mind paying 5 and 6 times the cost for lettuce and kale. We want Massey, Hadco, and Amco to make all the billions. Suffer we. By our vote. By our vote, we say we want the police service of Trinidad and Tobago cleaned up so that the law-abiding officers could be well paid and given a career in law enforcement. Or we could say, let the allegations continue. Call it a rogue criminal enterprise. Say it is the biggest gang in the country, and let that be okay. And do nothing about it. By our vote. By our vote, we could make things functional at the transfer of vehicle and getting a driver's permit. By our vote, we could make sure that the roads are properly managed and maintained, and that the contracts are broken up into 41 constituencies, so no overnight junior Sammies and Kusals and Calcos and SISs, but multiples of medium-sized contractors that could employ people from in the constituency and share the wealth. So instead of $1 million Rolex, we could have 1,000 Timex. By our vote. By our vote, we could decide to continue to spend billions of dollars wastefully in WASA, or decentralize water management and distribution to the 41 constituencies and make them work. By our vote. By our vote, we could bring accountability and responsibility back to every aspect of state management and government. Or we could say, let the madness continue. We have that right. We have it at the tip of our finger. By our vote. What do we do? What do we do with that? The nation that we live in, where we go from here, is up to us. Because we have every opportunity to fix Trinidad and Tobago by our vote, by the things we give our attention to, by what we join, by what we say. When we tell the other political parties, you have failed us, You have left us. Look at what the UNC have left us. The PNM could blame the UNC. The UNC blamed the PNM from before. Check what's going on now. Rowley blame Kamala. Kamala blame Manning. Manning blame Pandey. So nobody responsible. And it's just the people of Trinidad and Tobago to catch every time. And you haven't woken up yet to the reality that that revolving door of criminal corruption is what is responsible for this nation being the third world failed nation that it is. If you want a better country for yourself to grow old and for your family from abroad to come home to, for your children to grow up in, you have to use your vote wisely. Your vote will decide what we are to be. Your vote. We, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, get to stay dumb and stupid, holding up a system that advantage, robs, rapes, and plunders this nation. Or we could put ourselves in a position where the democracy works and the people of Trinidad and Tobago get the country they deserve. To the police officers who watching the video, you all saw this notice? To please be advised, this is to all officers, referral to dental and optical will not be issued until further notice. Thank you. You just lost a benefit. Please be advised that there will only be one doctor in office from now, March 16th to April 20th, 2018. Registration will be closed after the first 25 patients have registered. So if you are not within the first 25, crapo smoke your pipe. That is for police.
If it is the time, it's now that change should come about. Just as how you put them in, put them out. Register and put them out. If they don't see, put them out. Stain your finger and put them out. Show them no mercy, put them out. Put them out with total scorn and utter disdain. Let's put our country together again. Put them out of power, dominate their reign. Let's
peptrinbago@gmail.com is the primary address. peptt.com is the website. Pep app, P-E-P-A-P-P, is the app. You could download it. It's free at all the app stores. 347-4PEP, 347-4PEP is the hotline. We meet every Saturday at noon, 19 Stanmore Avenue. Tomorrow night at 8 o'clock is Frontline with Janice Lemon Creaky, the PRO, and Anthony Defoe, Director of Pep Media. I think the guest is going to be Chairman of the party, Felicia Holder, and they're going to have some news for you. And I will not be doing a video tomorrow night. I asked you a question earlier because I want us to think, and I want us to get to a point where we can have a conversation. How do we as a people, let's forget all the bacchanal and the old noise. Let us hear what somebody just wrote me. Watching the show tonight, somebody just wrote something, and I want you to hear it. I wasn't going to share it, but I'll read it to you. Do you do what you want with it? This is just a member of the audience watching. Someone asked me why people continue to vote for PNM, UNC if those parties really ruined us since independence. As I say, we have always been self-ruinous people with slavish mentality and as people who compulsively accepted authority without having the maturity to be analytical in assessing a situation in freedom, because we have never been a free people, although we did get political freedom in 1962. We as a people have always been waiting for them to do, for them to tell us how to do, for them to tell us the real importance of any event, and for them to keep our surroundings clean, and for them to tell us whom to vote even when we are 60, whoever they are. Are we truly free? So, even the question you have posed speaks and in fact demonstrates our dependence on others to tell us why we continue to vote for the wretched parties, though we know that they continue to loot us and continue the British legacy of keeping us slaves with divide and rule policy. Regimes where we endlessly wait for them to do us good without having to employ our own resources of intelligence and get out of slavish mindset. And this mindset, by and large, continues day by day, sadly through time. Now, we all know all of it. We all know all of the problems. We live in a country where we know the criminals in society. This is a nation where you know who and what. The countries are not. It's small. And people talk. Drug lords don't move their own coke. They hire people to do that. And people talk. This is a country broken by design. If you want it better, you have one shot, election. There may come a day where they'll outlaw that. Use it before you lose it. I don't know what else to say. But the conversation, I want to end it live and direct as I started it. I want us to think. How do we move from here, stuck and circling a failing nation, to there, where we could fix Trinidad and Tobago and make it the paradise on earth it was meant to be? I want you to think and give me some suggestions. Feel free to message me. And don't send me nonsense. I really am interested in getting some advice, because we have to wake people up. It cannot be so easy for the grandchildren of Africa and the grandchildren of India to be set against each other. We must be able to unite. Nowhere else in the world are they traditional enemies. Nowhere else in the world do blacks and Indians fight war. So why would we in Trinidad have blacks and Indians separated politically? Why? It doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. And regardless of who did what in the past, it doesn't matter, because we are the authors of the present and the future. We get to decide. Whatever mommy and daddy did is good for them. We get to decide what's good for us and our children. Going forward from here requires us as a people to take responsibility for our condition. Take responsibility for ourselves. Take responsibility for our families. Take responsibility for our homes, for our streets, for our neighborhoods, for our communities, for our constituencies, and for our country. Our democracy is dependent on what we do. If we end up with criminals in government, it is by choice, not by accident. You get to choose. The government of the day is a reflection of us, the people, and what we prepare to tolerate. I, for one, am no longer prepared to tolerate the madness that is the exchange of lesser evil voting. We the people of Trinidad and Tobago, we know better. We have every right opportunity now to make a change. This Saturday at noon, come out in your numbers. Join the party. Add your voice. Add yourself. Bring your skills. This is the change that you and we know we want. This is the opportunity to right-size 56 years of continuous wrong. If you want a better nation, if you think we deserve a better country, come down to Stanmore Avenue this Saturday at noon, or send an email to peptrinbago@gmail.com right now. Send an email right now that says, I want a better country. It starts there. All of us together, one people under one flag. Till I see you Friday. Stay safe, Trinidad and Tobago.